All right, let's turn to page 3 in your book, 12 Essential Tips for Any Presentation. We're going to start off with some of the basic things today, and as we go along, we'll get into some more of the advanced tips. So for those of you that are already speaking a fair bit, you might find this pretty elementary, but it might be a good reminder as well, okay? Now, number 1, the 5 P's of public speaking are: prior preparation prevents poor performance. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. There is no substitute for preparing for a speech, okay? Number 2, you should spend a minimum of 1 hour practicing for every minute of your speech. Yeah, so that sounds like a lot, right? If you're giving a 5-minute speech, you should spend 5 hours, because if you do 5 hours of homework and preparing and practicing, you'll nail it. If you're doing a 3-hour workshop, that's a lot of hours. Mind you, though, if you're doing a 3-hour workshop and you've done this workshop several times and you know the material, then you don't need to put in as much time. Make sense? Number 3, your message should be so clear that you can write it on the back of a business card. Saw Danielle mouthing that one. She knew that one. Yeah, 10 words or less. Your core, your foundational phrase, your core message. You should be able to go into any presentation that you're giving and saying, this is what I'm speaking on. Today I'm speaking from panic to power on the platform. Succinct, tells you exactly what we're going to do. Okay? Purpose of any speech is to inspire, entertain, or educate. And quite often it'll be a combination or all 3 of those things. If you're an engineer, it might just be education, but it's going to be probably a very boring presentation. Right? So even if you're an engineer or you're giving a very dry subject, accounting can be very dry, Glenn, right? You need to find stories to beef it up and make it more exciting. Number 5, the absolute best way to have your speech remembered is to tell a story, make a point, and show the application. How many times have you heard a great speaker and they tell this fabulous story and then you think, what was the point? They didn't give you one. So if you're telling a story, there always should be a point, and then how it applied to you, what happened because of that point that elevated you to whatever it was supposed to be. Number 6, every speech needs an effective opening, 2 or 3 supportive ideas in the body, and a killer closing. If you open flat, you'll lose the audience right away. All right? So you've got to do something to catch their attention. If you're giving a keynote presentation, you better hook them early so they're with you for the rest of the ride. Give them some interesting stuff in the middle, and then close with something powerful. Okay? And we'll talk about those things in a minute. In order to reach your audience, number 7, you need them to think, feel, or want to do something after hearing your speech. Great if you get them all riled up and they're jumping around in circles and they're all energized, and then they go home. What good was that, right? Think, feel, or do something. Number 8, don't try to add humor to your speech, uncover it. Now, you may have seen this. Speakers get up there and they'll open up with a joke. And people laugh, and it's totally irrelevant to anything they're saying. What was the point of it? Right? If you're going to use a joke, make sure it's relevant to your speech. And what I say about uncovering humor is when you've got a subject, think of all the situations surrounding that subject, and then look to see if there's any funny situations that have happened that you can interject. So more situational humor works well on that. Number 9, never be the hero in your speech. Make someone else or the process the hero. If I stood up here all day today and just told you how great I was and all the wonderful things I've done speaking, again, you'd be throwing stuff at me or you'd be tuning out, right? It shouldn't be about you, it's about your audience. Number 10, only use props if they really help your speech become better. I was coaching a lady a while ago, and she actually wanted to bring a banner on. This was for a contest speech, and she actually wanted to bring a banner on and hang it there for part of her speech. The only thing was, in between the speakers, you only had 1 minute of silence. So whatever you had to do, you had to be able to get your prop on the stage within 1 minute. And for her to take a banner with curling corners and actually hook it up onto the drape and that, I said, you're looking for disaster. Stay away from it. And she did in the end, and it worked out really well for her. So only use props if they're going to help your speech. 11, pull on heartstrings. Have you ever listened to a United Way speaker? Most of the time, they open with a heart-wrenching story about someone that's really down and out, that's suffering, and they're really trying to reach for your heart, right? The same can be true if you're trying to rally your troops at work. You might talk about your very first day when you started your company, about how you couldn't afford to eat, couldn't afford to feed your family, but you had this vision, and all of a sudden you're a multi-million-dollar company now, right? Use stories that pull on the heartstrings. The last thing is keep it conversational. And this is where sometimes, I'll say engineers again, and there's no disrespect to engineers, they're fabulous people, but they're too methodical, they're thinking about everything they say, and then it just comes out as very, we're going to talk about this today, now I'm going to tell you this, now I will tell you this, as opposed to pretending you're at the coffee shop with your best friend and you're just sitting there having a conversation. That's how you speak to an audience as well. Okay, keep it conversational, and it will make people feel like you're including them. Even if you've got a large audience and you're making eye contact looking around, they'll feel like you're talking to them personally, even if you're actually not, you're looking over in their direction. Okay, so you'll get a better connection.